I want to talk about the idea of femicide and some of the crimes that we're beginning to see much more regularly in Ireland, and try and build onto that and have a look and examine maybe some of the factors that might be at play in people's minds, in the Irish people's minds, that are stopping people from looking at these instances or these issues in an honest fashion. So this is a paper from 2024 called Femicide in Ireland, 20 from 2012 to 2023. And it says, quote, femicide represents the dramatic endpoint on a spectrum of violence against women and is an increasingly prevalent medical legal issue. Whilst there's no definition of femicide in the Irish legal system, femicide can be understood as the gender-based killing of women and girls. So femicide remains poorly defined and underreported worldwide due to enduring stigmatization, shame, and a lack of official statistics addressing national femicide issues. So what it's talking about is women being killed, right? And many in Ireland were introduced to this term over the last few years. And it came about perhaps most visually or most strikingly following the Aisling Murphy case, where Irish men were guilted and shamed and lumped into categories of rising killings of women and girls, as if there was some sort of collective blame to be attributed to Irish men. And by including Irish men and equalising the impact of their own men on crimes that are becoming increasingly committed by men who are not of this land and are not the people of the Irish women. Sadly, we've men now pathetically too championing this. And there is a betrayal and a turning away from one's people. With the Aisling Murphy case, we've seen the word femicide being amplified. However, when news came of the man who committed the crime being foreign, the noise seemed to die down. So we have a conditioned response there. Once there's an extra element brought into these cases, i.e. the criminal or the perpetrator being foreign, you see the cases begin to lose their media appeal. And these crimes the ideology around which femicide comes, or the ideology built around it or foundational to it, it looks at this and suggests that crimes can only be broken down into approved categories, men and women. Further attempts to break them down are deemed racist. So if we have men and women, then what types of men are we looking at? Irish men, non-Irish men. To do that, you would be deemed a racist. However, the idea of being a sexist does not apply. So this is intellectually dishonest, and this sort of dogmatic dishonesty is the way of the liar, or a disintegrated mind, a mind that cannot capture the whole context of a thing without being emotionally summoned to defend one aspect of it while denying the rest. We see here from September 2024, the Irish Independent. Femicide, quote, the gender-based killing of women and girls is on the rise in Ireland. A new study has found cases increased from 19% referred to the Office of the State Pathologist between 2012 and 2020 to 29% from 2021 to 2023. We infamously have the story of a man charged with the attempted murder of 3 children at Dublin's Parnell Square. People will remember this sadly, I would imagine. The man, Riyad Boukaker, appeared at the criminal courts charged with the attempted murder of 3 children and with causing serious harm to a care worker at Dublin's Parnell Square last month, November 2023. We have in Dungannon, Tavia Michaela Jimenez da Costa was just 2 weeks off her second birthday when she was found dead in bed on October 13th in Dungannon. The headline, the aunt of murder toddler granted bail despite strong police objections that she's a flight risk. In the southeast of Ireland recently, we have a man arrested in connection with the murder of a girl in New Ross in Wexford. I believe the man is Kuwaiti. So there's a distinctive and apparent element involved in some of these most recent cases, and that is that it is not just a case of Irish men doing these things. Over time and time again, over and over again, we are seeing that the perpetrators of these crimes are not Irish at all. But yet we hear the femicide mantra begin to chime again, and the belittling and shaming and guilting of Irish men and Irish society, as we see a rising level of women and girls being killed. Men are to blame. Subsequently, because we're in Ireland, Irish men are to blame. But femicide is so wide a term, as I was said previously, it's so ill-defined that it doesn't offer up a clear picture of the different details and different elements involved in these crimes, as they all must be taken on a case-by-case basis and not lumped in together. But what could be causing this refusal to deal with reality, or accept even parts of reality? Is there a guilt involved? The waving in of droves of foreigners so as to not be seen as racist has been standard ideology, standard social behavior and social communication over the last few years. Do people feel a responsibility on this? So what if it turns out the thing that you were promoting has been leading to the deaths of people, innocent people? This sadly brings me to the topic of abortion as well, because we must not forget, we must not deny that the issue of abortion came to the surface and was voted on and approved and clapped into law in Ireland over the last few years as well, coinciding with this upsurge, right? So there's another factor at play here. And the reason why I'm talking about that is that in order to have an abortion, one must make the peace with oneself that it is permissible to end life, or at least that while it might not be right, it is preferential in a given moment. Is there guilt involved? Some women can speak of the guilt which can follow from this, while others, who knows what numbers, will deny any guilt, claiming that they see nothing wrong with the choice they made and that they indeed would make a similar choice again. And again, some others will openly celebrate it and want you to accept it too, and also to pay for it. But what about the guilt? What if there is a deeper pool of guilt in people who have accepted the ending of babies' lives? What if the person's body and mind hold the violence that is involved in this act? Remembering. The body remembers, but the mind is corrupted with ideology and propaganda, causing a disruption in the flow of experience from sense to reason, from body to mind. If one is so disconnected that they cannot accept that there may be a residual guilt which comes from the act of abortion, and what their approval has seen happen, that 30,000 abortions have been committed in Ireland and growing, could that guilt be projected onto another? The sneaky person, of course, assumes that others are sneaky too. The thief believes others to be capable of it also. So perhaps those soaked in guilt can look to lay the blame on others, however unwarranted that may be. Perhaps that explains some of the way towards the avoidance of reality in Ireland.